So I just wanted to talk about a specific topic that I feel like is really something that comes up over and over again in my career, and it has to do with being a Y Combinator founder. There are a lot of people out there that are thinking about applying to Y Combinator and are not quite sure if they should be doing it or not. Now, if you're thinking about doing Y Combinator, just apply. And a lot of people say, why would I apply to Y Combinator when I don't have a product yet? I think Y Combinator are the investors that actually take on that risk of taking on really sharp, strong founders that they feel like are good people and that they feel like that they can execute. Founders who can execute are critical in building a startup. Action is probably the most important quality, along with determination and fortitude. Those are the qualities that allow founders to build complex, significant companies. And if Y Combinator sees those traits in somebody, they're going to consider making an investment. And another component of what they're looking for that I think is critical that a lot of founders don't realize is they are looking for stability in a founding team. So cohesiveness in a team where a team can actually work together in a really good way. So when you're figuring out who should be doing what, like who's going to be CEO, who's going to be COO, what are the co-founders going to be like thinking about, like who's going to be designing product. It's a very stressful environment being in a startup. Of course, it's a lot of fun, but it's also really stressful when you're passionate and you care about what gets built. So when you have like an underlying friendship, like a friendship that you've had for a long time, those are things. And an example would be, say you've known somebody 10 or 20 years or 15 years, or you went to college with them, or you worked with them, or they were someone that you had really looked up to and had asked for advice for many years, and you've built a really good rapport with that person. If there's someone that you know that's that smart and that can execute, and you have a deep respect for each other, those are the types of founders when they get together de-risk as a group. So if you have two or three founders, it de-risks in a way the company, because if it's one founder and something stressful comes up, the team may give up, right? So what you want to do is de-risk that part of the company in having more than one founder. And yes, there are anomalies, but if you're looking to get into Y Combinator, they do look for good founding teams. Another thing is, they tend to also look for technical people. So people that know how to build stuff or execute on something. So that could mean someone who built like an application that like they have some users, or they did something really significant at a really complex company that's really interesting. Like say they did something in satellites, just giving you an example of like, and they built some really complex satellite thing for a company, and then they want to do their own thing regarding like in space. So at least there's some expertise there. And if you get two or three of these people together that are friends, amazing things can happen. Small teams can do amazing things. And Y Combinator is really looking for that. Of course, they're looking for sometimes they're looking for market size and the idea, but it really depends. There's a lot of factors there. So, it may not be the best idea. Like I know Y Combinator wasn't so bullish on things like Airbnb at first, but they believed in the founders. They loved the founders. So they felt like that was the more strong part of the company. And then, as the company grew, they didn't know that Airbnb would become what it became. They thought it was kind of a crazy idea, but they loved the founders. So you get the really good founder dynamic in place. And I'm just saying this is like a important, like a linchpin of a company. Um, and when you're applying to Y Combinator, people say, I don't have a product. You don't need a product to apply to Y Combinator. You have to have a really good, strong founding team that can execute. I think that's really what they're looking for. They also are looking for like really good people who can articulate and talk through a complex idea in like a few sentences or one sentence. And, what's an example of this? Like, say you're doing something that maybe takes 30 minutes to explain, but you condense it down because you only have so much time with partners or with them reading through an application. You have to remember you have to condense things down to like probably the most important aspects of your idea and get that across as fast as possible. So just remember you only have so much time to like talk about something. So make it really concise, short, to the point. And if you get that 10-minute interview with the Y Combinator team, then you can expand a little bit on it, but not as much as you would like to. Maybe you want to talk an hour or 2 hours. You're not going to get that if you actually get to that interview. Um, Another thing is also talking slowly and concisely. So when I mean slowly, I mean slowly. The slower you talk, the more people listen. So if you're going to apply and record a video, I would highly recommend you talk very slow and concise. If you're one of the chosen companies that's actually going to get that 10-minute interview, I would highly recommend that you get a nice camera and a microphone. If you get a nice camera and a microphone like this setup, it will also help the YC team hear you and see you clearly. You're also going to want to have your co-founders set up their cameras and microphones so that they can hear them and see them clearly. If you have a 10-minute time slot with the Y Combinator partners and you take 4 minutes to set up your camera, or your co-founder is taking 2 minutes to set up his microphone, immediately that's going to set a bad example for that interview. So you're going to want to put your best foot forward, invest in a really good microphone, and just invest in some good lighting so that they can actually see you and see your co-founders. And honestly, that is probably one of the better investments that you can make to get a point across. So as you're talking, they're going to see your reactions, your excitement. They're going to see your co-founders' reactions and excitement, and it's just going to put you in a really good light. Now, another thing I do recommend for everyone to definitely try is to look for some alumni that went to Y Combinator. Now, the alumni network is massive, first of all, and there are many, many people out there. So saying you don't know anyone in saying you don't know anyone in Y Combinator actually is a sign that you may not have the tenacity to find somebody. You could simply go on Google, search for somebody on LinkedIn, search for someone on Facebook, message them. A lot of the founders are accessible and they are willing to give advice. So I highly recommend just going out and getting advice from founders. Again, one founder getting into Y Combinator is one founder getting into Y Combinator. That doesn't mean all of their advice is what you should be listening to. So if they're giving you some advice, definitely talk to other founders as well to get advice and different perspectives. So I highly recommend reaching out to founders, talking about Y Combinator, what is it like, what did they do, how did they get in, and throughout that whole process of learning from those founders, not only is it going to help you grow as a person, not only is it going to help your startup become stronger, your pitch become stronger, understanding the market more, it's going to allow you to articulate what you need to articulate in that. So there are some ideas that Y Combinator may be a little skeptical to fund. And an example of that might be something that's just simply not scalable. So the founders might be really strong and they might have a conviction in what they're doing, but it just simply might not be something that Y Combinator funds. And what's an example of that? Owning a pet store, having a pizza shop, running a local like tire distributor. Another thing is always like remember the first 30 seconds in your pitch. If you get that video, 10-minute video, is probably the most important. You want to really set the stage, set a good example, and also have the partners just understand what you're doing. Because again, the Y Combinator partners are seeing so many different companies. If you can't articulate what you're working on, they may not understand what you're working on. And you only have 10 minutes. And if you're confusing them in 10 minutes, why would they invest in you? You definitely can give really good answers that talk about the market size, competition, vision of product, and be passionate about what you're working on. Make them excited also because you're the person that's bringing this vision to them. Another thing is also talking and knowing about what you're building. So there are some founders that go in there with a really strong founding team, but they actually have an idea that the Y Combinator team thinks is not good. So being able to think on the fly, talk about market size, also understand that sometimes the Y Combinator partners might ask you about another idea. They'll say, hey, what do you think about this idea? Or what other ideas do you have? You can always have those in your back pocket if you feel like they are pushing you in that direction. Again, this is the idea phase. You're not set on this. Unless you've been building it for a year or 2 years, that's different because you actually have a lot of deep knowledge in what you're actually doing. Then application or through that 10-minute interview that you get. Put yourself in their shoes. In a sense, they've looked at thousands of applications and now you're on a Zoom meeting with them, or they're looking through your application. Like, what would you want to see if you looked through thousands of applications? What was something you've done amazing in your life? Maybe rode horses and were in competitive horse racing. Maybe you worked on a space shuttle. Maybe you took care of sick dogs. Anything that shows also like an apt of depth in your personality is also really good. It gets people interested in who you are. One thing I would actually like to say also is if you actually get that 10-minute, make sure you and your co-founders don't cut each other off. Make sure you are handing off, or you can have this person answer this question and that person answer that question. And an example might be like who's working on the technical side. You want to make sure that you can point to that person and say, this person is building, I'm running sales. And then that's a clear division of labor. And you're not talking over each other. If the salesperson starts to talk about the technology, you should have the CTO or co-founder that's building that side of it talk about that part of it. And just in a structure, these are points you want to hit either in your application or in your video interview. If you actually get to that 10-minute interview, is you want to talk about team, you want to talk about problem, you want to talk about market size, you want to talk about traction. And if you are able to hit all of these points in less than 10 minutes, you've really done a good job like making things concise. But if they're understanding you. And one thing that I think YC, a lot of people assume is YC, do they need to see a demo? The answer is no, most of the time. Unless you say you have a demo ready of the product, they may want to see that. So if you say we have a demo, be sure to have a demo ready. If you don't have a demo, just outright say, this is the vision, this is where we want to take this is where we want to go. We would love to join YC. Stories are really great and they connect people. So I would recommend actually talking about a story of like, why are you doing what you're doing? What is the mission of what you're doing? Like just talking about that makes people understand. So connecting a story to your pitch is so critical. The last thing I'll say is honestly, just be confident. By confident, I mean the more you practice your pitch, the better you get. So if you're going to a YC interview, if you practice for 10 minutes, and you only do it once, that's not good. You need to practice, practice, practice. And again, the YC partners will throw you off because they are going to ask you a series of questions outside of like your practice pitch, but that's okay. You just want to make sure that you can concisely answer any question that's thrown at you. But if they are silent, just keep talking and then just stop and wait for their next question. Another just tip that I would say is record yourself pitching for that 10-minute period and just listen to it over and over again and refine it and re-record it and listen to it almost like it's a song. And if you do that, that's a great way to honestly create more confidence for you. Anyway, good luck with submitting your application and also good luck with if you get a 10-minute interview.